If you watched any of the previous videos, first of all, thank you so much. We got everything set up and started getting used to ReScript with React. Now I feel pretty confident and comfortable. I spent this week figuring out a workflow and how I want to approach loading components that will extend and enhance YTStudio. After several years of full-time Elm, I wanted to push myself to learn something new. ReScript seemed like a good approach to functional and type-safe programming in the browser. Now I combine two other React components and start to leverage third-party React libraries like Material UI. I wanted to use Material UI so that it'll fit nicely alongside YouTube's design, since they're both Google products, and I don't have to do much besides pick colors, and then I'm going to use React Query to load widgets automatically and not manually selecting widgets to load. I went back and forth on a couple approaches to loading widgets. The issue is that I have to wait for a specific custom element to be loaded on the page before I can load a widget of my own. So I made a recursive function to query the DOM for certain nodes, waiting X number of milliseconds before querying again. I can control how many attempts at querying before it rejects. I thought I could use React Lazy, but I can't because it caches the result of my DOM query. So on subsequent queries, it has the DOM node cached, but it's not actually the same one on the page, so nothing gets loaded. Between caching issues and race conditions, I finally settled on using React Query. So picking up with where we left off in the last video, you'll see our message doesn't show up until we hit our 60 character limit. So what I'd like to do is set up a progress bar and kind of show that we're approaching the limit and give some more visual feedback as we enter a title. So we'll store a float on our model, and that will represent the number of characters in our title, and we can show the progress bar based off that. To determine the width of our progress bar, we'll take the length, divide it by 60, and then multiply it by 100. And then we'll clamp that to 100. And we can plug that in for our width. And then our background color is determined by how long the text is. If it's over 60, it's red, it's out of bounds. If it's over 42, then we're getting close, so we'll warn them as yellow. So simple red, yellow, green stoplights. And now we'll render out our progress bar, passing along the length. Some quick refactoring to return an array of children. So with that, we have a simple progress bar that changes colors based on the length, warning us ahead of time that we're getting close to our 60 character limit. But I think we can jazz things up a little, so we'll include Material UI. And so to do that, we'll have to write some ReScript bindings to import and use Material. There are pre-built ReScript bindings we could import and try to use, but I had a heck of a time getting version dependencies to line up, so it was easier for me to just do it by hand, one by one. So that's what we're going to do here. It's simple enough, so we'll go ahead and set that up. And so these decorators basically just import Material UI, sets up the React component boilerplate, and when it calls make, it'll set up the props. And when we call linear progress, it'll return a React element. And so we'll delete our old code and plug in our new linear progress component. And its value prop is our width float property we calculated earlier. And I couldn't get it to work with the palette. I haven't really tried working with the theme yet, but I can work directly with the colors. So I'll just pull colors directly from material. And so to work around it, I have the linear progress inherit the background color from its parent div. And so after reloading, we'll have a much nicer, much smoother feeling progress bar component. And so this already feels a lot better. It transitions nicely between the values. So you can see with very little work, we have some very nice results. Now we want to move on to refactoring app to dynamically load widgets based on the route. To do that, we can put a watcher on the title of the document. Using ReScript Web API, we can remove our bindings and query the DOM for the title element. So query selector will return an option or a maybe title element that we will map over. So after some light refactoring, we'll set up a use effect to watch the title element. So after moving our use effect to the right spot, when the title changes, we can log out the mutation record. So same thing we've done before, just look at the first mutation record and get the target, and now I can read its text content. And from the title, we can come up with a route. And so doing this in a very similar way to I would do it in Elm, we can pattern match on the route and from there set the current page. And so here's where we get a little Elm-like. We'll add a page type followed by a message type. And the only message right now is set page, and that will take a page. And adding an update function, we'll take our model as well as our message so that we can set the current page on our model. And so based off the current page, we'll know what widgets we want to load. So now it sort of works. It logs 2 undefineds because in title checker there's a race condition happening, so we'll solve that next. So it came up with a little helper function that'll add a pause or a timeout. And so we'll recursively query the DOM, pausing for 500 milliseconds in between each query, looking for the DOM nodes we need to attach our component. So it'll wait 500 milliseconds and then attempt to query for the DOM element. And if it can't find it, it'll come up with none and try again, decrementing some counter. That way we can That way we can control how many attempts at querying before giving up. But if it does find it, we'll resolve the promise and we'll feed that promise into React query. And so this particular widget needs two elements, the video title element to attach the widget to, as well as the video title input so that we can read off its text length and all that and attach mutation observers. So we'll wrap both of those in our query helpers. So to get this working, I wrapped this React component in a kind of submodule so that the default exported component here is our React query enabled React component that will automatically load our actual title checker component. So wiring up our React query, if it does find our video title element in our video title input, we can render it out just like we were before. So now it mostly works, we just gotta fix the initial state. So that's about all we need to dynamically load widgets. So now we know how to bind to other third-party React libraries like Material UI and be able to load our custom widgets. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next one.